gonna enter my heart here. Can you support a person with BPD when they are really either in a splitting cycle, or can you support them when they're just so triggered and upset? Can you support them when they've misinterpreted everything that you've just said? You're trying to love them. You're trying to show them kindness. How do you support them when they're emotionally dysregulated? And can you really help them with that? Well, the answer is really no. I mean, if they're untreated, if they're still in the very active throes of BPD, if they really don't know, if they really haven't had significant treatment, then no, you're not going to be able to really make a dent in how they feel. And why would that be? Because they don't trust. They don't trust because they don't have a self. They don't have self-reference. They don't have other reference. So they don't trust themselves. They can't trust you. That's a bottom baseline reality about, and keeping it real, about BPD untreated, or people in the active throes of BPD, maybe even people getting treatment but not really engaging it. So you really can't help them, support them, or just even like try to give them more love or care at a certain point, because it's triggering to them and they don't trust it. So when they don't trust what you're giving, they tend to react more negatively than they might already be reacting, very volatilely, etc., with volatility, there's the word for you, because they don't know how to take in the kindness or the love or the support that you're trying to give them. And why don't they know how to do that? Well, because that's just something that triggers them, something they don't trust, so it feels dangerous, it feels scary. And you might think, well, I'm trying to love him or her. How in the world could they take that as being dangerous or somehow, scary? But when they are triggered to emotional dysregulation, often dissociation accompanying that, and age regression as well, they're no longer in the here and now with you. They've gone elsewhere emotionally, and they don't understand why or what's happening to them, and they just want to escape those feelings, really horrible feelings. And so they'll often think that you're the cause of why they're feeling the way they are, too, simply because it's externalized out to try to get rid of the feelings, and they don't understand why they're feeling what they're feeling, so they blame you. And then you want to support that. It's not your fault. But you want to you want to support them, and yet they won't let you. And the closer you try to get, and the more kind you are, sometimes definitely the meaner they will be, the more they will react. And sometimes the more they will escalate. If they're raging, they'll escalate more. If they're withdrawn, quiet borderline, they will withdraw even more and go more inside of themselves for longer periods of time. I don't like always mentioning this, but it's like that quote, no good deed goes unpunished, unquote. And it's not that people with BPD, they don't even usually understand on this side of punishing why they're doing that or that they're doing that. So they just don't have, as I'm always saying, but it's true, they just don't have any reference for what you're experiencing it or why you're experiencing what you are. And so they continue to just not trust all your best efforts, all your kindness, all your love, all your wanting to talk about something that happened, to work it through. They tend to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing happened, because they don't know what it is. And so what's going on internally inside of them is impossible for them to deal with. They don't usually know on a conscious level what's happening for them, people with BPD. And so when you try and you want to help them, support them, reach out and show them care, concern, validate them, all of that can backfire when they're triggered to emotional dysregulation, with or without dissociation and age regression, because they simply can't trust it. And I know that sounds so simplistic. Well, but why can't they trust me? I love them. Don't they know that? Well, not in any consistent way. They might feel that at one moment and it'll be totally gone the next. I mean, that's the black and white reality of splitting in borderline personality. So it's really important to know that. And, you know, just a coincidence here, but, you know, be yourself because everyone else is already taken. I think that's an interesting message for the middle of this message or toward the end of this message about why you can't really help and support somebody through their splitting cycles, whichever one they're in, or the push-pull, or the, you know, get away closer and all of that. You can't really support or help them there because they can't trust you, and they will just, they'll dig in deeper. And so, be yourself because everyone else is taken. Well, people with BPD don't know who they are to be, so they don't know how to be, quote, yourself or themselves. And that's complicated, as I've talked about in other ways, the way that that plays out in relationships. And for people with codependency, be yourself because everyone else is taken, meaning you might be enmeshed with this person with BPD, but you need to have more of yourself. You have to be more with yourself in these times than trying to be with them, and they don't know themselves. So being yourself because everyone else is taken means you can't try to be. Essentially, people with codependency are often, without knowing it, trying to be the person with BPD. What do I mean by that? Well, you're trying so hard to be something for them that your level of abandoning yourself is huge, and it doesn't work. So it's not like you're really trying to be them, but I think you know what I mean in saying that to make a point. And everyone needs to be themselves because everybody else is taken. So whether that is a person in your life with BPD who doesn't know themselves, it's the same way that a person with BPD looks subconsciously to a significant other or a close person as that object, other, parent representation. They're not seeing you for who you are. And somehow through that, what you really need to do is be yourself because everyone else is taken. So I just happen to be wearing this shirt, you know, gotta grab what fits. Anyway, so it's really important though to think about that because people who are trying to support sounds wonderful, yes. Trying to love, trying to be kind, trying to care when somebody that you're in a relationship with, or maybe it's still contact with an ex that isn't helping you out. Maybe it's an adult child with BPD. Maybe it's a parent with BPD. But this trying to help, trying to be kind, the really abandoning of yourself for someone else, two things happen there. Doesn't help the person with borderline personality to change where they're at all. And they have to be being, quote, their lack of self in those moments. They are going to be in the cycles of trigger dysregulated emotion until they learn how to deal with that, until they come back out of that, you know, but overall, those cycles are going to keep happening unless they get enough therapy, which can take years to really learn how to not be in those cycles of splitting and lack of trust and not knowing self and not understanding that they're seeing somebody as somebody who they aren't and all of those things. But so, can you really support them? Can you validate them enough? Can you be kind enough? Can you give enough? Can you overgive enough? Can you hurt yourself in the process enough to change who they are or how they feel or what they're going through? The answer is simply, keeping it real, unfortunately, no. And many people know this. They found it out in the way that most people find it out, which is the hard way. I don't expect anybody to just say, well, okay, I'll stop all that now then, because I said what I just said in this video, at all. People have to process their way through this. They have to gain knowledge, intellectual understanding, but also keep re-experiencing, unfortunately, what you're experiencing as a person with BPD is re-experiencing what they're re-experiencing. Not that that's the same thing or in the same ways at all. But you have to be yourself because everyone else is taken. Think about that for a minute. Because the more you want to support and help this person, And yes, validate, but you're trying to be so kind, and they're already in a triggered, dysregulated emotional place. It's almost a little bit like in codependency. You're trying to be them for them because they don't know who they are. And they are lost in those times of dysregulated emotions, which can also be age regression and dissociation. And so it's really hard to see somebody in that state or those states, and also how they treat you and what they think about you in those times, those states, with the splitting and the cycling and all of the different presentations. Because they can't, people with BPD who are untreated, still in the active throes of BPD, can't relate in any consistent way. And there isn't anything that you can do to change that. They have to go to therapy and years of treatment to learn how to change that, to find themselves, to build back the lost self, to be able to learn how to relate consistently. First of all, with themselves, and then secondly, with other people. So it's really a difficult situation for people. People really do want to help the person with BPD in their life. And each and every time you try to do that, I have the wildest neighbors upstairs. Each and every time you try to do that, what's going to happen is you're abandoning yourself. So you're going to get doubly wounded over and over and over again. And if you wonder why you feel so confused, so lost, maybe you're not getting good sleep, maybe you're worn out, but you're trying so hard, you can't do for someone else what they can't do for themselves. And that's really an extreme and compelling difficulty that people with BPD have, and the codependents have on the other side of people with BPD, no matter the relationship type. Be yourself because everyone else is taken. So that means even the person with BPD who doesn't know who they are right now and all that they're going through that you can't help, you can't support, you can't rescue, you can't fix, you can't give enough, they can't hear you, they're going to push you away, they're going to hurt you for your kindness and love and efforts at certain times. Don't be trying to be them for them, because that's what happens to people essentially. And that's how you lose yourself even more. You can't be someone else for them. You have to be yourself, because everyone else is taken. And so people with BPD are taken, yes, but they're not taken with a self. They're not being a self that's taken yet. They need a lot of significant treatment to be able to do that. But in the meantime, you need to be yourself because everyone else is taken, meaning not sacrificing so much of yourself to try to, in essence, be them, for them, to help them, to rescue them, to try to change and fix them. What about you in those circumstances? What about what's happening to you? And a lot of people don't realize how they are losing themselves. How it's affecting their emotional health, could be affecting physical health. It could just be affecting your performance at work, everything about your life. You might be anxious. You might not know how to settle down. You're always worrying about this other person, and you're just not paying any attention to yourself, like a healthy way, healthy amount of attention to yourself. So be yourself because everyone else is taken, and start to learn, if you don't know yet, what the boundaries are of where you end and where they begin, because people with BPD don't know where they end and where you begin. It's this enmeshment. It's like fusing together, and on both sides, it's extremely damaging. So I hope that was helpful. It's not an easy message, and when you're in the really emotional places in these relationships, it just feels like you got to do whatever you can do. You got to try as hard as you can to help. The thing is, it doesn't help. You lose yourself in the process, and the person with BPD is likely to turn around and not be so kind for your efforts. Take care.